Okay, guys, so quadratic keywords and quadratic function word problems. Uh, I would print this page. It's going to be on your notes, or I would definitely make note of it somewhere important because they can only spin these up in so many different ways. And as long as you can factor, as long as you understand how to find the vertex, which would also give you your axis of symmetry, or you've memorized quadratic formula, and or you have a calculator or Desmos for the rest of your life, you should be able to answer all of these. So the only part you really have to work on right now is figuring out what is it asking for. So how long is it in the air? How long until it hits the ground? Time is always along your x-axis. So this is always going to be time. And this is going to be height. So going up is going to be how high. Even if we're not talking about throwing a ball or anything of that nature, maybe we're talking about profits. When did it reach its max profit? When did it reach the minimum profit? That's still going to be that y value because that's either the min or the max of the quadratic. In this case, because it's a negative quadratic, this is going to be your max. So it could ask, this graph could be asking, what is the maximum profit? When did they reach the maximum profit? Means you're going to use the x-axis. So how long in the air would be time? How long until it hits the ground? When does it hit the ground? All of that, you're looking at your zeros. And usually you're using your positive zero if there's a positive and a negative, because the negative is not time. You can't have negative time. There are some quadratic word problems where they'll say, how long was it in the air? And so in that case, you're going to go for, like, if this was the graph from 0 until then, but if it started on the ground, like your other 0 was in the positive quadrant, then it would be the distance between the two. So just the difference, the absolute value between those two numbers. But for the most part, you're focusing on the positive 0 or the max of your vertex. When did it reach its maximum profit would be an x value because that's your when. When, how long? What is the max height? How high after so many seconds? So how high after so many seconds means when x is equal to 2, how high is it? When x is equal to 4, how high is it? And these are a bunch of your keystrokes or optional keystrokes if you're using a TI 83 or 84 or any of those things. So the things we're going to need to be able to solve for are going to be your zeros or your solutions. You're going to need to make sure that you can find your vertex because that's going to give you your axis of symmetry, that x value, which would be your when was it at the highest point. What was the highest point is going to be the max or min or lowest point depending. And that's going to be a y value. So what is the max point or min point? So that's a y value. Axis of symmetry we know is an x value. Find the y coordinate where it started. So this would be your starting point. You should have learned that probably in 8th grade. So starting point, like when you're doing linear regressions with data. So it's still the starting point. Where it crosses the y-axis is starting point. And don't forget your zeros are the same thing as x-intercepts, solutions, roots, zeros. All of those are going to be looking at these dots down here. All right, guys, that's your basic vocabulary.